All right, it seems we are live. So, hi, hello everyone, and welcome to the final edition of Functional World this year, of course. We will be back in 2025, so I'm really happy that I can have Kannupriya as our guest to wrap up the year, because we all know that women in IT are very rare. Especially in the Scala ecosystem. So I'm really excited for today's meeting and happy that you've accepted my invitation, Kanu. And well, I think that Kanu is like very well-known figure in the Scala ecosystem and the Scala community. She's very active member, and she takes part in a lot of different meetups and conferences, both as speaker but also a participant. So I think you should know her very well. And today she's gonna present the anatomy of Scalandex. So you can see some of its functionalities. Kanu will also share her mentoring experiences, but also contribution to the open source community. Contribution to the open source. So I hope you will like today's meeting and you will enjoy it. Of course, you can drop any comments and questions in the chat, so Kanu will answer all of them right after her presentation. And good luck, Kanu. Over to you. And thank you. That's it from my side.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. And I would also like to extend my gratitude to the Scala C team for hosting this event and giving me this opportunity, and to Matilda for all the kind words. That was a very pleasant intro. My name is Kannupriya, and I'm very excited to be here today and to speak with you all about Anatomy of Scaladex. So this is all about my open source adventure and my GSoC mentorship experiences with Scala Center. So, so I actually began my open source journey with Scaladex somewhere around October 22, and this has been an incredibly rewarding experience for me. And today I'll provide an overview of this project, and I'm going to describe my role and discuss like how it has fueled my passion for Scala. Also, I will be sharing insights into my experience as a mentor for the Google Summer of Code 2024 program with Scala Center. And we are about to start the 2025 program very soon. So you'll know all about it in this. And yeah, all through the program, I had the pleasure of guiding and collaborating with enthusiastic contributors. And I'm sure it's going to be a great experience for you. So, moving on to a slide that is about me, which is kind of weird to keep talking about yourself. So, so that's me. Uh, that's Scotland in background. So yeah, something about me before we get started. Like, I love functional programming, and like like the host said, that I am a very frequent attendee at all the Scala conferences everywhere, London Scala Talk, Scala Bridge, and Functional World. Apart from that, so all of this, that's my passion taking me places. And but for my day job, I am working as a Scala software engineer at Sky. And yeah, I am contributing very actively to Scala open source through the Google Summer of Code program. Moving on to the next slide, which has the agenda for my talk today. I've given quick bits on it already, but yeah, like formally, firstly, I'll introduce you all to Google Summer of Code, which is GSoC, and show you why you should get involved regardless of your level, like whether you are a beginner or an experienced developer. You'll get a lot out of it. And we'll then dive into one of this year's GSoC projects, which is Scaladex, which is a great open source starter project to show you how easy it is. And I'll then tell you a bit about my journey in mentoring on this year's GSoC. And to close, I'll show you how to get involved, offering some insights and doing my best to encourage you to start your own contributions to the Scala community. So, yes, let's get started by understanding what Google Summer of Code is all about and how Scala Center fits into this global initiative. So, and yeah, apologies for I have a bit of a cold, but I'm gonna do my best. So, yeah, GSoC is amazing and you should be involved. So, what GSoC is? So, it's an annual online global program which is designed to encourage participation in open source. And this year, like 2024, was a momentous year because we celebrated the 20th anniversary of both Google Summer of Code and Scala, and with 34 open source organizations participating in this program, like Scala Center is one of those organizations. And today I'll be discussing everything in the context of Scala Center's involvement in GSoC. And this year, 10 contributors have been accepted to Google Summer of Code 2024 program, which we just wrapped off in October under the Scala Center. And And what is Scala Center? So Scala Center, I hope we all already know, but yeah, Scala Center is where the real magic happens, and it's the place where our very own Scala language has been created. So imagine learning from people who actually worked on creating the language and its associated libraries. So having access to something like that, I think there's nothing bigger than that. So moving on to the program, who can participate? So good news is everyone can participate, just in different roles. The program is basically geared towards beginners first and foremost, and it is intended to be a learning experience for people at the very beginning of their careers. So you can be a beginner to software engineering, to open source, or to Scala itself. So yeah, and it is also intended to give an opportunity to people who would otherwise not have one, like someone from a disadvantaged background. Scala Center will definitely prioritize your application for that when making an acceptance decision for a potential contributor. And yeah, for experienced Scala developers also, if you have been already someone like me, for example, who I was already working with Scala for several years, so you can participate as a mentor to guide and support the new contributors. And how all of this works, so this is just a roadmap of um, of how the whole thing is. So basically, this is a collaborative agreement between a mentor, a contributor, and Scala Center. And the final approval, they come from Google. So Scala Center organization, mentors, and contributors, they put in a lot of work for making this happen. So how it goes like is mentors, they create project ideas, and Scala Center comes up and we have a reviewing board and they review all those projects, and Coming up next is contributors applying for these projects, and mentors then selects contributors, and project proposals with respective mentors and contributor details are submitted to Google, and Google decides which projects it's going to run, and it pays up to $6,000 to successful contributors, which is very good for a summer intern or a side project. So moving on, how does one participate like a mentor? So that's what my role was. The way is that you need to propose a project idea related to Scala and its associated tech stack, and submit a pull request on Scala Center's project ideas list page, which we have already created for 2025. And the project that you want to mentor on, it doesn't have to be uh, a new project or new initiative from scratch. It can be one, but it can either be a new initiative from scratch or an enhancement of an existing project that you started long back. So basically, you can put in any project as long as it's related to Scala. It could be a personal project or it could be an open source project which you have been working on. So the project can be then categorized based on the effort required, like for a small project, 90 hours, medium project, 175 hours, or a large project making for 350 hours. And additionally, these projects can be further classified based on difficulty level, like student level or advanced level developers. Then the project will first be reviewed by Scala Center's org admin, which is me in this case, and some more people from Scala Center board. We will be reviewing the projects that are submitted, and if accepted, we will add your project idea to the Scala Center's project idea list page. So contributors will then apply to work with you. They will reach out to you based on your communication medium that you have put in your project idea, like your email or your LinkedIn. And you can select the most suitable candidate's proposal. The project list will then be sent to Google for final selection, and the project will only be sent to Google if a contributor is associated to work on it. So a mentor cannot just do the project on just by themselves. And more than one mentor can propose a project idea together, which is great. Like you don't have to take in all just by yourself, though this is the whole project work and everything goes just for 2 months, but you can have other experienced developers by your side and work on mentoring a single contributor. Moving on to how do we participate as a contributor. So this makes it all the more interesting. um, like everything, it goes by assessing your interests and abilities to identify the most suitable project. So browse through the Scala Center's project ideas list page and like see what you're interested in, what were the projects last year, what's on the table this year, and reach out to the mentors to express your interest in the project. You'll have all the mentor details in the project uh, idea list page itself. Then you have to prepare a detailed proposal outlining your plan for working on the project, and seek help from mentors. Like feel free to reach out to them and tell them that okay, I've created a draft review of the proposal if you need, and before I make a final submission on Google's page, you just look for a draft review so you can make it better. Then eventually submit your proposal to the Scala Center organization, and the mentors will then formally review the proposals and select the most suitable one to work with. And if you're selected by your preferred mentor, so every mentor gets a lot of proposals and a lot of people reach out to them, so your proposal will then be forwarded to Google. Google will make the final decision on the project's selection. So the people pushing it forward are your mentors and Scala Center organization, but the most final decision on how many projects that are going to go ahead, which are going to get funding, is going to be made by Google. And coming on next on the screen is all the useful links that I have put in here. So starting with the program site, which is the Google GSoC official website. Then then we have a contributor and mentor guide, which tells you everything in detail. Then we have Google open source blogs. Then I have put in the links for ideas list page for Scala Center and Type Level. So they both so Type Level also participate under Scala Center only. They have separate ideas page until 2024. So I have put those just so you get an idea of what kind of projects went through in 2024. And then I've also put in the link for the projects that were selected for 2024, the successful projects. So this you'll get a fair idea of everything that's there, and it's a very good list to know everything that has happened in 2024. Mm, moving on to my project, Scaladex. So, who has seen Scaladex web page? So, Scaladex is in happy to know. Scaladex is an index of Scala open source libraries, and it provides a tool to the Scala developers worldwide for searching Scala libraries and finding the one they need to develop their Scala applications. And it is exclusively for searching Scala related libraries and its dependencies. And goal here for me is to help you understand some of the important concepts related to it. I'll also explain a bit about how we organize the project and all the different modules, architecture, and how we do the testing. So with this, we are sort of moving on to the next part of this talk. So for now, I've given a good information background about GSoC, but given this was my project, I want to just show everyone that okay, even if you choose this project this time, uh, you can get fair bit of success because we had two projects related to Scaladex going for GSoC. But yeah, there's ample amount of projects, and you can schedule you can suggest your own as well. So moving on to introduction to Scaladex. So like I said, it's a website for indexed open source Scala libraries, which is used to find and discover useful libraries with its multiple search filters, and it helps library authors also to promote their libraries. So first, a bit about libraries. How do we publish them? So we all are so used to using them, but just digging a bit deep and trying to know like how do we publish a library. So when you create a library and if you want to publish it publicly so that it's available to anyone, usually we publish it to Maven Central. There are many repositories where you can publish the artifact, but the one that is used nowadays is Maven Central. And Maven Central is used for Java, Scala, Kotlin, Groovy, etc., other JVM based ecosystems. And let's discuss Maven Central now, like as it's a tool many of us have already used in our work. So it was originally designed with the goal of allowing the download of Java libraries from a centralized repository. And while it was built to support the JVM based platform, Scala, which can run on other platforms such as Scala JS, Scala Native, they also utilize it. Although Maven Central was created for specific purposes, it is now used for a wide range of languages. And given that Maven Central is used for finding libraries, why was Scaladex actually created? So I'm sure many of you would be wondering by now that okay, we have it all in Maven Central. Why do we need Scaladex actually? So I'll give a few seconds for you to give it a think. Mhm. So, Maven Central serves as a repository for storing libraries, but it is not designed for discovering and learning about them. Its user experience is not ideal for Scala libraries and has some limitations, such as compatibility issues with different Java versions. Also, it was designed with the focus of JVM only platforms without considering native JavaScript or other platforms. So, what we need is a solution which is tailored to the Scala ecosystem, which is much richer and diverse. We need a search function exclusively for Scala libraries, the ability to search by application type, by platform version, by language version, Scala 2, Scala 3, or a combination of all of these criterias. So, so Scaladex addresses all of these needs by allowing users to filter and explore libraries. They can view the relevant links and find libraries based on metrics such as the number of stars on GitHub, indicating popularity of a library. And Scaladex is dedicated to Scala libraries and does more than just extract information from Maven Central. It also integrates library data from GitHub and offering a more comprehensive resource for Scala developers. I'll quickly show the Scaladex behavior through a diagram. So, um, so with this slide, you can see the interaction between Scaladex, Maven, and GitHub, and it's detailing how Scala library information is managed and displayed. So, first part is publishing to Maven. So, whenever a developer publishes a Scala library to Maven, it has a POM file. POM is project object model. So this file contains metadata about the library, including its group ID, artifact ID, version, and other essential details. Then next step is a notification to Scaladex. So once the POM file is created, Maven then sends a notification to Scaladex indicating the presence of a new or updated Scala artifact. Then the next step is pulling the repository information. So we can see in the diagram itself, pull repository information. So Scaladex then processes this information and pulls additional details from the associated GitHub repository like README, badges, statistics, commits, contributors, open issues, forks, and many more things. And moving on from that, it updates the database. So Scaladex updates its own database. It has Postgres SQL database. So, so with this newly fetched information, so there is a background job running there, and that updates it. And this ensures that the library details are like always current and complete. And we are updating around 9,000 project libraries every day by fetching the recent stats from GitHub, and which is pretty impressive. And this is and there's no like manual intervention for it. It's all done by a background job. And then the next step for the after updating the database is displaying on the web page. So finally, the updated information is made available on the Scaladex website, allowing users to search for and view details about Scala libraries. And this entire process happens seamlessly in just two steps, in receiving the POM file from Maven and pulling repository details from GitHub. And now, by automating this whole workflow, Scaladex maintains an up to date index of Scala libraries. So, I think I did give a thorough background of what's going on with Scaladex underneath. Just a quick check about Maven Central. I've covered a bit on this, but so when we publish an artifact, we use its reference. So reference is made of a group ID, an artifact ID, and a version. And this artifact contains basically a POM file which contains the metadata about artifact and several jar files. So your build tool needs the POM file for resolving the dependencies and jar file to compile. Then what's the difference between a Scala and Java artifacts? So in Scala, libraries modify the naming convention by incorporating additional information. Specifically, they append the Scala version and platform version to the artifact name, like you can see on the screen. So this approach actually diverges from the Maven's original design principle, like you can see for a Java artifact. So that did not account for such metadata in artifact names, like we have put a binary version as well there. So to manage this, we have developed a custom convention tailored to Scala's needs, because with Scala, uh, binary version has to be there. So Java artifacts typically have straightforward naming structure where the artifact ID is just the name of the artifact. In contrast, Scala artifacts include the binary version of the artifact ID, like for example, artifact name plus binary version. So this is necessary because Scala 2.12 and Scala 3 are not binary compatible. So that's the highlight of this. That's why I was trying to say it out loud again and repeat some of the things. So the binary version helps ensure compatibility with the correct Scala version. And with the next slide, you can see that there are different Scala binary version based on what platform is your project targeting. Like default is JVM for sure, but for other platforms they are specifically mentioned. You can see the mention of native or JS. So example, the binary version is cat score underscore 2.13. There is no mention of JVM in this. So if it's Scala JS, we mention SJS and then the Scala version. If it's Scala native, we mention underscore native and then the Scala version. And I'm sure this is something like this is just an example of JVM dependency, which uh, everyone must have seen already. So this is the final dependency identifier that you add to the SBT build file. It includes the group ID, artifact name, and version. Moving on to semantic version. So in Scaladex, for a version of an artifact, we use semantic version. A semantic version is composed of different parts: major, minor, patch, and pre release. If it's not a stable version of a library, we will see a pre release version. RC here is release candidate. M1 is when we want to publish an artifact, even when the library is not stable. And non-semantic version, like if after major, minor, and patch there is something else, then that's a non-semantic version. This here shows how a POM file looks like. So I'll just, given I have added some more information after explaining Scaladex behavior, I would just explain in more depth about everything that we have gone through so far. So when Maven publishes an artifact to Scaladex, it means it sends a POM file. So Scaladex only needs this POM file to get information about the artifact, and then it will query GitHub to get the information about the GitHub project and index that's into Scaladex. So POM is, project object model. It contains information about the artifact. And this basically here is an overview of a POM file. And going about each of those things, we have group ID, which specifies the group or organization that the project belongs to. So in this case, org.type level indicates the organization responsible for CAT's core library. Just a moment. Then artifact ID, which uniquely identifies the library within the group. So cat score underscore 3 like refers to the cat score library for Scala 3, and version indicates the version of the artifact. POM files also contain additional metadata such as license, SCM, and SCM provides details about source control management, including the repository URL, which is crucial for open source projects. Here you see the URL pointing to the CATS library's GitHub repository. So this is how Scaladex reads information from POM file and get the Git URL of the library to extract the additional information it needs to show about the library in the web page. Scaladex only supports GitHub for gathering more information on artifact. And the artifacts using different SCMs like GitLab, for example, so they can create a GitHub mirror to let Scaladex read the library repository. But yeah, for now we are only doing this on GitHub. Then let's look into more internal details of the on the infrastructure side. So I have already mentioned the database we are using is PostgreSQL, and we have Elasticsearch engine there. So I'll go about the impressive parts, at least to me, having spent over a year on this project. So for me, the beauty of this is this makes for a single server, single process architecture, and all the code runs in just one process, including APIs and background jobs. Due to monolithic architecture and manageable user requests, which are a few thousand daily, then we use KISS principle here, which is keep it simple, stupid principle, to avoid any over engineering. Then the infrastructure here is purpose built. So it's built to meet specific needs, ensuring maintainability, supportability, and approachability. So with data storage, PostgreSQL is housed on the same VM as the search engine, and search engine is Elasticsearch. And coming on to POM file handling, when POM files are published, they are parsed and the extracted data is stored in the PostgreSQL database. So this here gives a detailed dependency graph for each of the modules. So making for 7 modules here. Core is the module where we have all our data classes, artifacts, project, binary versions, semantic versions. Then infra, template, and client modules are directly dependent on core module. Like it's exactly the way it's shown in the dependency graph, with the arrows signifying the dependencies. Then infra, um, We have SQL database and Elasticsearch engine. Template, we have HTML 12 templates. For client, we are using Scala.js scripts. For server, we have HTTP routes. For front page, search page, project page, publish APIs. Then background jobs are our admin services, which is our main class. And for data, so basically we have created and loaded snapshots of the database. And I have quickly jotted down in the on the presentation itself some external dependencies. For example, we are using Circe for JSON serialization, Ruby for SQL queries. Then we have Elastic 4S for Elasticsearch queries. Then we were previously using Akka HTTP, but now we are using Pecco HTTP for HTTP server and client. Then 12 for HTML templates. I've already spoken about that. Then we have Bootstrap for the front end layout and components, and Scala test, of course, for Scala testing. Then background jobs. So background jobs maintain the state of Scaladex, and they're scheduled every X minutes per hour, and they can be only monitored by admin. So these are some of the background jobs that I've mentioned, like sync search, which synchronizes the search engine with the database. Then missing Maven artifacts job, which keeps checking, looking for missing artifacts. Then GitHub info, which is the one updating the GitHub info of projects, like README topics. Then user sessions, which are about updating the GitHub info of users, like all the list of organizations and repos. Then move artifacts, move artifacts of a renamed project. So that's basically updating the artifacts. And I think the amount of testing in this project is very, very impressive. So there are unit tests and integration tests covering all the important use cases. So here's a detailed description about all of them. Um, like unit tests for each of the modules, infra, server, then integration tests for making sure everything works well together. And with this, here's a list of some useful links with Scaladex web page, its GitHub page. Then there is a setup guide, which is a very detailed guide to help you get initiated with the project. Then we have some list of open source issues which you can try before Google Summer of Code 2025. And anything that is labeled with a good first issue will be of interest. But it's you can make a fair assumption, like something of the type of a good first issue would make for a GSoC project. Um, Moving on to the next, my mentoring experience with Scala Center. So I got a lot to learn, and it was a very rewarding experience for me. Um, there are lots and lots of encouraging and knowledgeable people working there, and um, giving back to the Scala community. So this is my way of doing that, and encouraging everyone to contribute to open source. Also, like, a good thing is that the community is really nice. It's very accepting, and it teaches you a lot of things no matter what your level is. There's always someone to guide you, to hold your hand and take you a step forward. So yeah, and of course at Sky we use a lot of open source libraries too. So yeah, I had a pretty great year. So this is something I curated based on my experience throughout the year. So apart from Scaladex, if Scaladex doesn't seem interesting enough to take up for Google Summer of Code, there's a lot of interesting new work. So like for Scala 3, for updating the Scala website, Scala JS, there is FS2, Feral is one more great project. SBT, we have our own SBT. So these are some interesting new work that you can touch. So there is a lot if you go on the ideas page, but these are some of my recommendation for someone who wants to have a greater impact. So yeah, there's a lot of places to contribute. Uh, but if not, you can always create a new one. Like if you are creating a game or you have some, for example, one of the participant has a music library related to Scala, so you can always do your own thing. And you do not need an expert to contribute. A beginner reviewing the help doc can have more impact than an expert. And yeah, this is an opportunity to work with world class experts and develop your skills without learning it. So that's a big take in for you. You don't have to learn everything before you participate and contribute. And I think lots of places in the world we only get a chance to do something when we already know it and when we go through an interview. And but with this you have a chance to try things, seek help, make yourself ready, and then go for it. And and yes, if you already have a day job like me, for example, you are an experienced dev, I'm very sure it will make you better at your day job as well. And why did I choose Scaladex? So I worked on Scala CLI as well, but two of the projects that I mentored were related to Scaladex. So this was the best project based on the tech stack to learn something and get experience on an industry level working. So the tech stack is very industry related. Any job related to Scala, if you're looking for a new job, and if you compare the tech stack for upcoming Scala roles and for this project, it's all the same. So basically, Scaladex is going to give you industry level experience. It's gonna be a paid experience because Google is going to pay for it, and so it's going to be valid experience for you on your resume. And with this, thank you.
Thank you, Kanu, for your talk. There is one question, but I think you've already answered, right? This one, I mean.
Let me quickly see.
It's on the
Yes,
screen.
yes. Can someone at work also participate as a contributor? Yes, you can. Yeah.
All right. Are there any other questions for Kanu? Maybe I will share your LinkedIn profile in the comment section. So you can connect with Kannupriya and ask about everything. You can also connect with me if you want, and if you would like to become the next speaker. Yeah. Okay, you have some really nice comments.
Thank you.
Okay, so there are no questions. If you will have any, you can just connect with Kanu and just write to her on LinkedIn. And well, thank you very much for joining today's meeting, and thank you, Kannupriya, for today's talk. And see you next year, guys. Thank you all.